exquisite.
With The Mummy's Secrets. And now, Barbara Walters.
Mummies have always fascinated. People are drawn to their mystery, their hint of immortality. We usually think of mummies as Egyptian, but ancient rituals of mummification have been popular around the world, preserving the faces and the secrets of the past, seemingly forever. And now, in a 2020 partnership with the Learning Channel, Tom Jarrell goes in search of what mummies can teach us about the past and maybe the future.
In St. Petersburg, Russia, just up the steps inside a museum from the old Russian Empire, the Hermitage, is one of its most bizarre and popular exhibits. Remains of infants who died in miscarriages or shortly after birth almost 300 years ago, floating in a clear preservative. They are mummies, and the public comes and stares.
They're almost grateful for a chance to look at the dead. It is a taboo. You don't normally get a chance to really stare. And this is a chance to sort of confront your own mortality.
Civilizations around the world made mummies and were fascinated by them. Mummies of the famous, like Argentina's Eva Perón and Russia's Vladimir Lenin. And mummies of the not-so-famous, like little Rosalia, who died 80 years ago. Or this 75-year-old mummy who looks as though he's taking a nap. And this South American baby is 6,000 years old and is the oldest known mummy in the world. What can these relics from the ancient past tell us? What can we learn?
We do have an unusual mummy here. There's no question about it. I hope so. Now, this one's going to come under.
Dr. Bob Breyer is an adventurer who tracks down the secrets of the ancient tombs. He's an Egyptologist, a real-life Indiana Jones. He's recently completed a worldwide search for burial sites for a Learning Channel report called Unwrapped, the Mysterious World of Mummies.
Exactly what is a mummy?
Well, our definition of a mummy is that anytime you try to preserve human tissue or animal tissue, that's a mummy. If you're preserving tissue, you've mummified something.
So your home is filled with your work. This is where you do a lot of it.
Yeah. Almost all the books have to do with either Egypt or mummies.
Breyer's Bronx apartment in New York is filled with his life's work. Even a couple of mummies' heads tucked away in cardboard boxes.
By looking at a mummy, you can tell a little bit about diet. You can tell a little bit about age. You can tell, it's basically detective work.
With the help of CAT scans, biological testing, and X-rays, Breyer can tell us how mummies lived thousands of years ago. For example, they sometimes experienced a modern-day problem. Con artist.
This was a wealthy woman. We can tell by her coffin. But she didn't get what she paid for in the way of mummification. They really didn't do a good job. So when they wrapped her, eventually the bones just collapsed inside. So she looks pretty good as a wrapped mummy. You don't know what's going on inside.
In ancient Egypt, anyone who could afford a mummification could have one in hopes of an afterlife. But the only afterlife they've had so far was fictionalized in Hollywood.
He's alive.
Seeking revenge and terrorizing audiences.
Let me go! Let me go! Let me go!
I think the fear of mummies is really a Hollywood production almost. That, we see the mummy as this horrible creature dragging its leg across the screen. It's supposed to be a fearsome thing that eventually kills everyone in the excavation. It's hype.
Perhaps the Egyptians' mummies were glorified in films because the Egyptians were the greatest at mummy making, including mummifying animals.
The Egyptian technique of mummification has almost been a sacred, secret technique. You went and explored that.
The Egyptians never wrote down how they mummified a human being. And I got the idea that the only way to really figure out how they did it, the details, was to actually do a mummification.
So he did. In 1994, Breyer set out to make his own Egyptian-style mummy, using a secret formula he had discovered on one of his expeditions. The body was willed to science. The donor, of course, had no idea he would become a mummy. Ron Wade, director of the University of Maryland Anatomical Board, collaborated with Breyer on their experiment.
Here it is.
Here it is.
First time in over 2,000 years.
About 2,800 years.
The mummy has been produced.
The Egyptian style, exactly.
Where did you get the basic ingredients you needed?
We got the ingredients the same place the Egyptians did. I went to Egypt to a place called the Wadi Natrum, the place of the natron, which is the salt they use, and I dug my own, 400 pounds of it, and we got our spices, our frankincense and myrrh. We went into the spice bazaars of Cairo. We basically sort of did it the way the Egyptians did it. The Egyptians knew that you had to remove all moisture from the body or it would decay. That's the key to mummification, dehydrating the body. And the brain is very moist. So are the internal organs. So that's why they remove all the internal organs.
With one exception, the heart.
They left the heart in place because they believed you thought with your heart. We did virtually everything the Egyptian way.
How close did you come to the reproduction of an Egyptian ancient mummy?
I think we got it right.
And after 5 years, there's no sign of decay. X-rays and CAT scans show in every way it is an Egyptian-style mummy.
But as far as practical use for today's civilization, today's people, what has this advanced?
Our mummy is used in research around the world. And we're looking to see, is this possibly a way of preserving tissue for medical use, for example?
Well, these were actually specifically prepared to teach medical students in Scotland.
That goal of preserving medical tissue for research has been around for a long time. In the late 1700s, Scottish physician Alan Burns preserved these body parts at a time when using bodies for anatomical study was against the law. Grave robbing, as depicted in the Learning Channel report, was a primary source for body parts, and the ghoulish work continued right into this century.
Is this an ear?
And that's the ear, and you can see how small it is, mainly because when it was mummified, it was salt and sugar cured, which took the water out,
Right.
which made it much smaller.
So let's take a look at this. Here's the aortic arch, right?
Today they make mummified body parts of real organs taken from bodies donated for medical research. These actual organs are preserved through a modern process called plastination.
If you put your finger right over where you're going to make your incision, you
It's, as a process, it's modern mummification. It's an enhanced teaching tool to complement the anatomy.
Now, this is an example of that. Is art if I touch
Absolutely.
this? This, of course, is a human hand and arm.
Yes, sir.
Now, a student could get a sense of feel, a strong sense of what the actual thing is like.
Right. Look at the skin, for example. The skin here on the fingertip is very similar.
Almost fingerprints.
Almost. You could probably get the fingerprint if you...
The organs are injected with plastic. This means a real heart goes into the student's hands so they can study life-threatening problems like heart attacks.
Tell me about this heart.
You see a lot of the white and all this. This is a lot of fat thing. There's so much fat you can't even see the muscle around the heart there. So this is 5 bypasses.
5 bypasses.
You can even see the stitches from the surgery, and you can even see the staple from the surgery. Some of these are absorbent sutures, and you can see they never had time to absorb.
So this,
post-op,
whoever had this heart died shortly after the bypasses.
shortly thereafter.
A modern use for the ancient art of mummification. And Breyer's passion to learn more has taken him to remote regions around the world. 500 years ago, on the mountaintops of Machu Picchu, Peru, an Inca tribe sacrificed their young to the gods. The frozen remains were found mummified, the valuable blood and DNA still frozen in their veins, perfectly preserved.
Mummies are a terrific window into the past. You can learn, I mean, they're like little encyclopedias, if you know how to read them.
So the search goes on into what some see as a morbid past, while others view it as a valuable source for clues to our future.
Amazing. Well, if you can't get enough of mummies, there's more on the Learning Channel's December 3rd special, Unwrapped, the Mysterious World of Mummies.
Tonight on KAKE News, learn how schools make sure your kids can plug into the power of the internet without exposing them to inappropriate content.
And will a new law force you to use a headset on your cell phone while driving? Watch Hoax Hunters at 10 on KAKE News.
I wish I was home where I'm. Oh, when the music
New MSN Explorer. Everything you need to feel at home on the web all in one place.
home.
Get MSN high-speed DSL or satellite internet access at Radio Shack today.
At
At Zales this Saturday and Sunday, this exquisite $7.99 2-carat diamond baguette line bracelet is now just $5.99. These dazzling $4.99 3/4 carat diamond earrings are now just $2.99. And this stunning 6-carat diamond line bracelet is now just $9.99. But hurry, because quantities are limited. At Zales stores nationwide or shop online at Zales.com.
That's our program for tonight, and we thank you for joining us. I'm Barbara Walters. Remember, we're in touch, so you be in touch. And for all of us at 2020, enjoy the rest of the holiday weekend. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC.